President Xi pledged this week $250 billion in investment in Latin America over the next 10 years. With me down the line to discuss these strengthening ties is Dr. Armony. Dr. Armony, emblematic of China's increasing clout, trade in goods with Latin America skyrocketed between 2000 and 2013. There has been the suggestion the latest accord weighs slightly in China's favour. But how big a deal would you say this is for the two regions?
Well, I think that we need to look at this issue at two levels. On the one hand, the way you formulated the question speaks about the region as a whole. So there we usually look at averages. And according to that perspective, we may say that there is a problem of trade imbalance because essentially the way in which the relationship works is that China buys commodities and sells to Latin America manufactured products. And even though for about a decade commodities were doing very, very well, as we see with the cycle now, the prices are declining, and these results in a trade imbalance. However, when we look at the level of the countries, the story is a different one because several countries, among them Brazil, Argentina, did very well in the past decade in terms of their trade with China because the relationship in terms of their capacity to sell products such as soybean was excellent. And when the price of oil, for example, was doing well, the countries that produced oil were selling petroleum to China, and this was a very good deal. So, in fact, the relationship nurtured growth in Latin America, and this was very good for the region.
The pledge marks part of a drive to boost resource-hungry China's influence in a region long dominated by the US. But what is the potential ripple effect here? Should the US, for example, be alarmed?
As you probably know, historically the United States has always been concerned about the presence of extra-regional powers in the hemisphere. This is a historical. The United States and China have been cooperating in terms of their policies in Latin America. They have an ongoing policy dialogue that has been going on for a number of years, and the results of this dialogue are pretty good. But the more that China engages in Latin America, of course, generates some level of concern for the United States.
China's export machine remained a prop for the world's second biggest economy, as overseas shipments climbed more than economists estimated last month. But some analysts don't believe it will be strong enough to spark a rebound. But what do you think?
Well, I think that when we consider this issue, we need to look at the whole picture because the capacity for export that China has is now only part of the story in terms of the prospects for China's growth. We need to pay a lot of attention to China's domestic consumption. This is the big challenge that this country is facing. And there are reasons to be concerned about this because on the one hand, while the middle class has been expanding dramatically in China, the big bet for the Chinese government is this ambitious process of rapid urbanization. If this process succeeds, China will continue to grow and will continue to promote global growth because there will be more and more need for imports, and at the same time, China will continue to advance technologically in terms of its exports to the world. So that will be a very good situation. However, we are not there yet. Recently, I was in China, I was in the south, I was in the north, and you see miles and miles of apartment buildings that are newly constructed, and they are empty. And we know that many of these apartments are owned by Chinese individuals. Many of my friends have 2, 3, sometimes 6 apartments, and these apartments are empty because they cannot rent these apartments to anyone, and they have them as investment. Now, if this bubble is going to explode, then China will be in big trouble, and this will hurt its economy, and of course, it will send very negative waves throughout the world.
Dr. Armony, great to speak with you. Thank you very much for your time. Well, viewers, that's all from me for the moment. Also on the site today is a look at the UK inflation picture with Sinead McLaughlin. So please do click back for that. Goodbye for now.